People always say heartbreak feels like drowning. But no one warned me that mine would walk back into my life wearing a leather jacket, smelling like autumn rain and old memories, and dragging along the unfinished pieces of our past. I should have run. Instead, I froze because fate apparently has a twisted sense of humor. The morning he returned, Willow Creek was still half asleep. Sunlight hadn't fully broken over the Montana mountains yet, and the town quiet, predictable, beautifully boring sat wrapped in a blanket of early mist. I had spent the past 4 years learning how to breathe without him, how to live without the burn of his presence in my veins. Then he appeared again, as if the universe had hit rewind without asking permission. His name was Rafael Torres, the storm I once let destroy me. Back then, during those 7 chaotic days, he had walked into my neatly controlled world like an explosion disguised as a smile. And I, Noah Ellington, the guy who color-coded his grocery lists, fell headfirst into the very mess I should have avoided. But today was different, because he didn't return alone. He returned carrying the truth I never expected, the truth he said belonged to both of us, a child neither of us had ever met. And somehow that hurt more than losing him the first time. When Rafael stepped out of that old black truck in front of the community center, the first thing I noticed was how tired he looked. There used to be fire in his eyes, that reckless spark that made everyone lean in a little closer. Now the fire was still there, but dimmed, shadowed by something heavier. He saw me before I could duck back inside. His lips parted, barely, as if my name had been living on his tongue for years. Noah, he breathed. I hated that hearing him say my name still felt like a key turning inside my ribs. Rafael, I replied, keeping my tone flat even though my heart felt like a blender someone forgot to turn off. We stood there, for years of distance stretched between us like a thin, fragile wire. One wrong move and it would snap. Rafael shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket, a habit he never had when we were younger. Back then he was always open, always touching, always reaching. Now he looked like a man who had spent too much time holding on to something he was afraid to lose. I need to talk to you, he said. I don't think that's a good idea. It isn't. But I need to anyway. Typical Rafael, still leaning on honesty like it was both shield and weapon. Before I could stop him, he walked around the truck and opened the back door. Something inside rustled. Then he lifted a small duffel bag. Just that. No child. No stroller. No tiny hands reaching out. So I told myself I was imagining things. That I misunderstood him. That this was just Rafael being dramatic, which he was exceptionally good at. Look, I started. If you're here to apologize, don't bother. We made peace with that years AG. It's not about an apology. He cut in quietly. He stepped closer. Too close. The scent of him hit me like a punch cedarwood. Cold air. Something warm underneath I didn't want to name. His voice dropped to a whisper. It's about the baby. My breath stalled. Baby? I echoed, the word foreign in my mouth. Rafael nodded once, slow. And even before he spoke again, something deep inside me shifted like the earth itself tilted a degree. There's a child, he said. Ours. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Or sane. More like the kind of laugh someone makes when the ground cracks open beneath them. Rafael, what the hell are you talking about? That's not... I didn't know either, he said firmly. Not until 3 months ago. Know what? That biology no longer applies to. Reality? He winced. It's complicated. Try me. Rafael looked away, eyes fixed on the mountains. The silence stretched long enough for the cold to seep into my bones. Her name was Lena, he said finally. We both knew her. From the shelter. She passed away. The name hit me with a dull ache. Lenikind-hearted, soft-spoken. Always smiling even when life kept hitting her. She'd been pregnant the last time I saw her, but she refused to say who the father was. People assumed it was an ex-boyfriend who'd left her. But Rafael... No, that didn't make sense. I knew every inch of this man, every scar, every lie he never quite told. Rafael wasn't the type to hide a pregnancy. Hell, He wasn't the type to follow rules long enough to be someone's stable partner. Still, his voice trembled. Not visibly, just enough for someone who used to love him to notice. She left a letter, he went on. For me. For us. The word cracked something inside me. Raf, I whispered. I think you're confused. I think he held out the letter. And that was when everything changed. It wasn't the handwriting. Or the paper. It was the way my name was written inside alongside Raphael SAS. If Lena had always known something we didn't. A beat later, Raphael added the part that nearly made my knees give out. The little girl. She's not with me right now. She's safe. But I need you to meet her. I need you to hear everything before you decide what comes next. I should have told him to get back in his truck and drive until Montana was a dot in the mirror. But I didn't, because I remembered Lena's smile. Because I remembered the way Raphael once held me like I was something fragile and holy. Because somewhere in this twisted mess, there was a truth waiting to be uncovered. And sometimes the truth chooses you whether you're ready or not. I exhaled slowly. Okay, I said. Start talking. Raphael's shoulders dropped, not in relief, but in that subtle way people relax when they've been carrying a secret too heavy for too long. 4 years ago, he began. After everything happened between us, I left town because I thought it was the right thing for you. I thought giving you space was better than dragging you into the chaos I kept creating. I laughed again, quieter this time. And now, he met my eyes, unflinching. Now the chaos is back. And it has my eyes. Shock punched through me. He wasn't joking. He wasn't exaggerating. Rafael Torres, the man who got reckless tattoos after midnight, who once drove 300 miles just to see the ocean, who kissed like he was starving, was standing in front of me talking about a child that carried his eyes. And mine? I asked hesitantly. Rafael swallowed. Hard. Maybe, he whispered. Most likely. Lena. She said the baby was conceived the week everything happened. The week everything happened. Those 7 days that had rewritten my entire life. Those 7 days of chaos. Memories slammed back. Laughter in motel rooms, kisses that tasted like desperation, arguments that burned us from the inside out, nights where he whispered things he never repeated again. And after all of that, a child? My vision blurred for a moment. Raphael stepped closer, voice soft. She looks like you. Noah. I swear she does. I shook my head, stepping back instinctively. Raph, that's not possible. You and I, we're 2 men, he said simply. Yeah, I know. But I also know what Lena wrote. And I know that sometimes life doesn't care what's possible. My throat tightened. I had no words. None at all. Behind us, the town slowly began to wake, doors opening, cars humming, coffee brewing in diners. Ordinary life went on, blissfully unaware that mine had just been flipped upside down a second time by the same damn man. Raphael watched me carefully, as if afraid I'd break. I'm not asking you to accept anything today, he said. Just hear the rest before you decide what to believe. I closed my eyes. 5 seconds. 10. When I opened them, Raphael was still there. Still him. Still mine in a way he never should have been. Fine, I said quietly. Tell me everything. Raphael didn't start talking immediately. He never rushed the hard things. He only rushed the things that hurt him. That was something I learned the first night we met, when he kissed me before he even learned my last name. But this story, he held it in his hands like something fragile. He leaned against the truck, arms crossed, gaze drifting to the horizon where the sun finally split open the morning sky. I stood a few feet away, the cold biting at my skin, though I couldn't tell if it was the weather or the weight of what he was about to say. It began the night I left town, Raphael finally said, voice rough. The night we said goodbye. Don't call it that, I muttered. We didn't say goodbye. You walked out. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Yeah, I walked out. And I'm sorry for that, Noah. I really am. He paused. But that night, after I left your place, I drove until the road blurred. I wasn't thinking straight. I wasn't thinking at all. I was angry, confused, hurting in ways I didn't know how to explain. And when the storm hit, I pulled over near the old shelter on Route 15. I blinked. The one that shut down 2 years ago? Yeah. Back then it was still running. Barely. They were understaffed, underfunded, practically surviving off hope. His eyes softened. Lena was there. The image of her came back to Murem brown hair pulled into a messy bun. Freckles like powdered cinnamon across her cheeks. Smile too gentle for the world she lived in. She was pregnant then? I asked quietly. Raphael hesitated, then nodded. She didn't tell me how far along she was. She didn't tell me anything, actually. She helped me. She gave me a place to sit, made me tea, told me to breathe. I was a mess, and she didn't judge me for it. That sounds like her. He took a shaky breath. She didn't ask questions, didn't pry. She just told me something I didn't understand back then. Something about how people come into our lives for reasons we don't see yet. Reasons we're too blind to recognize when we're hurting. That sounds like her too, I whispered. Raphael looked at the ground. I stayed there a few hours. I didn't sleep, didn't talk much. Lena didn't either. We just existed in the same space. Two broken people trying to keep the pieces together. His voice dropped, so soft I almost didn't catch it. Then I left. I thought that was the end. I frowned. And that somehow resulted in a baby? Raphael, none of this explains. It wasn't like that. He cut in quickly, eyes sharp with defensiveness. Nothing happened between us. Not once. I need you to believe that. I stared at him, searching for any crack, any lie tucked behind his words. But Raphael wasn't a liar. Dramatic, chaotic, impulsive, yes. But never a liar. I believe you, I said after a moment. Relief washed over his face so visibly it hurt to look at. Good, he whispered. Because this next part, it's the reason I came back. He reached into the truck again and pulled out a thick envelope, corners frayed, edges smudged. He held it like it weighed more than it should. This is Lena's letter. My stomach twisted. She wrote it a week before she died, Raphael said. And she left it with her social worker, along with documents. And a request. A final wish. His eyes lifted to mine, dark and unsteady. She asked for the child to be brought to me. To us. My heart skipped. Why us? I whispered. He swallowed hard. Because the baby wasn't hers. Silence fell. Heavy, icy, unreal. I forced a laugh. Raphael. That doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't, he said urgently. I know how it sounds. But listen to me. Lena wasn't pregnant when I saw her that night. She wasn't even seeing anyone. She wasn't carrying her own child. Then whose? Someone left the baby at the shelter, Raphael said, voice cracking. A newborn. No note. No ID. Just blankets. He paused, eyes burning. And they abandoned her on the exact night I showed up. The world spun a little. They found her minutes before I arrived, Raphael continued. And Lena said she believed that wasn't a coincidence. She believed we were supposed to protect the baby. Me and someone else she didn't know yet. Someone I cared about. My lungs forgot how to function. Me? I croaked. Yes. Raphael's voice steadied. She wrote that somehow some impossibly beautiful, stupid, cosmic way you were meant to be a part of that child's life. She didn't explain why. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she just saw something we didn't. I shook my head, overwhelmed. So the baby, this little girl, she isn't biologically either of ours? Raphael hesitated. No DNA test yet. The shelter didn't have funds, the county didn't prioritize it, and Lena didn't want her to be taken into the system. She kept her hidden until she passed. And then the social worker honored Lena's request and brought the file to me. I stared at the envelope like it was radioactive. And you believed it? I whispered. Raphael didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph, small, slightly bent, edges soft from being held too much. He handed it to me. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want whatever I saw to rearrange my life again. But my fingers moved anyway, lifting the picture. A little girl, maybe 2 or 3 years old. dark curls, big eyes deep and warm, impossibly familiar. Her cheeks were round, soft. She wore a tiny yellow sweater and held a stuffed elephant missing one ear. Something inside me cracked open. White, violent. Her eyes. Not mine. Not Raphael's. Not exactly. But somehow they felt like both. Like a beginning neither of us chose but were now responsible for. She looks like she belongs to someone, I whispered. She belongs to us, Raphael said quietly. If we want her. My throat burned. Where is she now? I asked after a long, shaking breath. With the social worker, he answered. In Missoula. Safe. Waiting. Waiting for what? For us, Raphael said. For me to stop running. For you to listen. For both of us to decide what the hell we're supposed to do with this miracle that got dropped into our lives. Miracle. A word I never believed in. I forced myself to hand the picture back, but my hand trembled. Raphael didn't take it immediately. He looked at Miralai looked like he was memorizing the moment. Noah, he said softly. You deserved a better version of me. You deserved a man who didn't disappear. But I'm here now. I'm trying. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to do the right thing for her. And maybe for us. The breath I inhaled felt sharp, too cold. You think we can just pick up where we left off? I asked, voice thin. After everything? No, Raphael whispered. I'm hoping we can build something new. A painful silence grew between us, thick with unspoken things, anger, longing, unfinished love. Finally, I asked the question that had been haunting me since he arrived. Why didn't you tell me sooner? 3 months. You waited 3 months to come back. Raphael closed his eyes. Because for the first time in my life, I was afraid of losing something before I even had it. My chest tightened. You're not making this easy, I muttered. It's not supposed to be easy, he said. It's real. That word again. Real. I hated that it still felt like him. Like us. Raphael stepped closer, slow, giving me enough time to pull away if I wanted. I didn't. He reached out but didn't touch me. His hand hovered near mine, a question he didn't dare ask out loud. Noah, he murmured. Please talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. I exhaled shakily. I'm thinking this is insane. I know. I'm thinking you're insane. He almost smiled. I know that too. And I'm thinking. My voice broke. I'm thinking that if that little girl really needs us, then I can't just walk away. Raphael's breath hitched. But, I continued, this doesn't mean I forgive you, or trust you, or that anything between us is fixed. He nodded, accepting the blow like he expected it. I know, Noah, and don't expect us to be a family. My voice cracked anyway. Not yet. Raphael swallowed hard. I'll take whatever you can give. I looked at him, really looked, and the man before me wasn't the boy from 4 years ago. He was older, worn, softened in places he used to be sharp. But still Raphael. Still the gravity that ruined me. Still the only person who ever made me want more. After a long moment, I sighed. You said she's in Missoula? Yes. When can I meet her? Raphael straightened slowly, as if he were afraid any sudden movement would break the moment. Today, he said. Right now. I can drive. I hesitated. The idea scared me. Noit terrified me. Meeting her meant accepting the possibility of a future I never imagined. A family that shouldn't exist. A responsibility I wasn't prepared for. But ignoring the truth would be worse. Okay, I whispered. Let's go. Raphael breathed out like he'd been underwater for years. You should bring a jacket, he said gently. It gets colder near the mountains. I know, I said, brushing past him to grab my bag from inside the community center. I live here, remember? He chuckled softly. Yeah. I'm just trying to take care of you. You lost that, right? I snapped before I could stop myself. He froze, then nodded. You're right. Guilt pricked me, but I ignored it. When I returned, Raphael opened the truck door for me. A small gesture. Too familiar. Too dangerous. I can open my own door. I know, he said. Habit. Break it. He closed the door without argument. As he walked around to the driver's side, I caught a glimpse of him in the reflection of the window shoulders tense, eyes shadowed, jaw set. He looked like a man preparing for battle, or someone praying for a miracle. Maybe both. The engine rumbled to life. The road stretched ahead, pale and winding through the mountains. And as the truck rolled forward, I felt it, the shape of my life was changing. Again. With him. And somewhere in Missoula, a little girl waited for two men who didn't know how to be fathers, or partners, or anything steady. But maybe, just maybe, she was the beginning of something none of us saw coming. The drive back to Willow Creek was quieter than I expected. Not heavy, just full. Full of possibilities, of fear, of something like hope I didn't want to admit to yet. Raphael kept glancing at me as if making sure I was still breathing. Or still there. Or still willing to stay. I wasn't sure I could promise any of those things. But I didn't run. And for now, that was enough. When we reached the town limits, the sun had dipped low, spilling gold across the mountains and bleeding into soft indigo. The kind of sky that made Willow Creek look almost magical. The kind of sky that made goodbyes feel a little less sharp. Raphael pulled into the street behind my small apartment. He didn't turn the engine off immediately. Instead, he sat there with his hands still on the wheel, shoulders pulled tight. "Noah," he said, voice low, careful. "Before you go, I want you to know something." I braced myself. With Raphael, something could mean anything. A confession, a disaster, a secret he should have told me years ago. He turned toward me fully, the last of the daylight reflecting in his eyes. "I'm not leaving again," he said. "Not unless you tell me to. Not unless you decide you don't want me in your life at all. But even then, I'll still stay close enough for her. And for you, if you ever change your mind." My throat tightened. "Don't make promises you can't keep." "I've broken enough," he answered. "I'm done breaking things." The sincerity in his voice hit me harder than I expected. Raphael reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny paper elephant folded from a diner receipt, worn along the creases. He placed it in my hand carefully. "She likes elephants," he said softly. "The little one. She carries that stuffed one everywhere. I saw this on the counter at a diner and folded it for her the day before we drove down. I thought maybe she'd like to have a small one too. Something new." I stared at the paper elephant. So small, so fragile, and my heart did something stupid and painful and warm. "You're trying," I whispered. "Harder than I've ever tried for anything," he said. "Including us." The wind rattled the truck window. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. The world moved, breathed, continued, but inside the cab of that truck, everything stilled. I closed my fist gently around the paper elephant. "What now?" I asked. Raphael hesitated. "Now you rest. Tomorrow I'll bring her here. The social worker will come too. You can take your time. You can ask questions. You can meet her slowly. Whatever you need. Whatever you need." For years ago, Raphael never said things like that. He gave fire when I needed calm. Gave chaos when I needed peace. Gave passion when I needed something steady. But now he was offering patience. And maybe that was what hurt the most. Because patience was the thing I used to beg him for. "I'll see you tomorrow then," I said, opening the door. But before I stepped out, his hand caught the edge, not holding me back, just pausing me. "Noah," he murmured. "Thank you for giving me this chance." I didn't trust myself to speak. So I nodded once, stepped out, and closed the door behind me. As I walked to my apartment, I didn't look back. Because I knew if I did, I wouldn't be able to breathe. Inside, everything felt smaller than it had an hour ago, like the walls knew my life had expanded in ways I wasn't ready for. I set my bag down, placed the little paper elephant on the counter, and stared at it. "She likes elephants." God, I hadn't even heard her voice yet. I didn't know how she walked, how she laughed, whether she slept with the elephant tucked under her chin or hugged tight to her chest. Tomorrow I would know. The thought terrified me. I sat on the couch, leaning forward, elbows on knees, hands tangled in my hair. The silence pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. But then slowly something else slipped in underneath it. A warmth, possibility, a thread of something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, those soft curls, those big eyes, the tiny yellow sweater. And behind her always stood Raphael. Not running anymore, not burning everything he touched. Just standing there, waiting. Morning came too soon. My heart hammered against my ribs as I walked outside, breath fogging in the crisp air. Raphael's truck rolled into the driveway at exactly 9:30. But this time he didn't climb out first. The passenger door opened, and a small girl peeked out, clutching a stuffed elephant missing one ear. Her curls bounced when she moved. Her eyes, God. Those eyes landed on me with curiosity, caution, and something like timid wonder. Raphael stepped out after her, gently lifting her into his arms. "Noah," he said quietly, as if he didn't want to scare her. "This is Marissa." Marissa. Her name hit me like sunlight. She tucked her face into Raphael's neck for a moment, shy and small, before looking back at me. Raphael rubbed her back gently, reassuring without pushing. "It's okay, sweet pea," he murmured. "This is Noah. He's someone very special." Her small fingers curled tighter around the elephant. I swallowed hard. Tentatively, I crouched down to her eye level. "Hi, Marissa," I said softly, voice shaking more than I wanted. "I'm Noah." She studied me with a seriousness I wasn't prepared for. Kids see everything. They feel everything. And whatever she saw in me made her grip loosen just slightly. Raphael's hand rested on her back, steady and patient. "Do you like elephants?" I asked gently. She looked down at the worn one in her arms. Then, slowly, very slowly, she nodded. "I have something for you," I added. Her eyes widened. I reached behind me and pulled out the little paper elephant Raphael had folded. I held it out in my palm. Marissa's breath hitched. She looked at Raphael for permission. He smiled softly and nodded. She reached out with tiny, careful fingers and touched the paper elephant as if it were something sacred. Then she took it and held it against her elephant plush, matching them like puzzle pieces. A small, barely there smile curved her mouth. And in that single moment, in that tiny, fragile beginning, my heart gave up any fight it had left. Raphael's eyes met mine over her head. There was no fire this time, no chaos, just gratitude, relief, and something like love that neither of us dared name yet. But maybe we didn't need to. Some stories didn't begin with declarations. Some began with a child holding an elephant, and two men learning how to rebuild a life they never expected to share. When Marissa reached one small hand toward me, hesitant but hopeful, I took it. Warm, light, real. "Hi," she whispered, barely audible. My chest cracked open. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. Behind her, Raphael exhaled shakily, like he'd been waiting years for this single breath. And maybe he had. Maybe I had too. As the three of us stood there in the quiet Montana morning, sunlight spilling over us, the mountains watching like silent witnesses, I realized something. Love didn't always come the way you expected. Sometimes it arrived in pieces. Sometimes it arrived 4 years late. Sometimes it arrived wearing curls, holding an elephant, and staring at you like you were someone worth choosing. And for the first time in a long time, I believed we just might be okay. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.